Hi everyone, thanks for joining us in Backyard Mechanics again. Great to have you back. Today we're not in the garage once, we're actually on site in Perth, Western Australia, at a workshop called WA Racing Developments. Let's go check out this workshop and have a bit of a look around the facility. Alright, so we're here with Mike from WA Racing Developments. Mike, thanks for giving some time tonight. First of all, tell us a bit about this shop, what you got here and some of the stuff that you do. Thanks, Mike. This is now the part where you talk.
What was the question?
This is going to be a long night.
This is so much harder than... It's like funny when you watch people, like
really?
You do it.
Yeah.
And then it's like... okay, basically mainly we do dyno tuning. That is our mainstay of the business at the moment. So we have a mainline Pro Hub dyno, 2000 horsepower. Like to keep the hubs on that spinning. So tune a lot of RBs at the moment, a lot of JZs, obviously a lot of rotaries. Do a lot of HP tuners, V8 stuff. We're one of the only places that has hubs specific to V8 supercars with the single nut hubs. So even though there's not a lot of them around, we do a fair few of those. Do a lot of Motec stuff, a lot of dash setups, a lot of engineering, a lot of circuit racing stuff, and a lot of data stuff with circuit guys. We also do ECU installs, wiring, mil-spec wiring harnesses, a lot of sort of racing orientated stuff coming from that level of motorsport because we've been involved in that for a long time. So a lot of that washes down to things we do every day. So a lot of race car setups, suspension, scaling cars, also fabrication. We've got full fab shop in-house and machine shop. So we can do anything from stainless exhaust to alley cooler pipe to pretty much anything you can think of. Chrome moly roll cages, chassis, pretty much anything.
Engine work, you build engines in that too here, or?
Yep, do a lot of rotary engines. Do everything in-house for rotaries, from machining, porting, building. Also can do piston engines, do a fair few RBs, that sort of thing, but pretty much anything. There's nothing we're not open to doing. As long as it's generally motorsport orientated, we're interested in getting involved.
Yeah, cool. Alright. So, being that we're focused on the show here is called Backyard Mechanics, and I just work out of a home garage, and that, I guess, tell us a bit about how you got involved in this motorsport sort of industry and what your beginnings are and what you sort of, were you a trained mechanic or anything? Did you go through TAFE or any qualifications like that, or you just self-taught, and how has it come about to where you are now?
So basically, I had a Mazda RX-4 was my first car, and then from that, was at uni at the time, so had a lot of spare time, so started mucking around. Actually did like a 13B turbo conversion myself back when I was 18, and then from that, your mate wants one, and then his mate wants one, so before you know it, I was working in the parents' front yard, and then while I was at uni, I ended up getting a workshop with a few mates, an industrial unit. Started doing after-hours stuff and weekends. Then finished uni, got a normal job. I'm actually qualified as a surveyor and cartographer, but was always doing the workshop thing at the same time. And then 3 or 4 years into that, just decided going to go and follow my passion. So decided to do the car stuff full time. So I started off with a rotary workshop with a mate of mine, John, called Factory RE. And that ran from about 2004 through to 2010, primarily doing rotaries. And in that time we got involved in a little bit of circuit racing stuff, a little bit of Targa, a little bit of drag racing. So just started opening up avenues into motorsport. Around 2009 we started doing a lot more motorsport stuff with a few sort of key people, some pretty good drivers in WA and that. And then in 2010 we evolved into a shop called Pro Race Products, which was primarily focused on circuit racing. We had like a part shop out the front, workshop out the back, dyno was there, and a lot of fabrication, a lot of the same stuff we do now. But that's really the era where it evolved from doing general, street car sort of stuff, a little bit of performance stuff, a little bit of track stuff, to purely a motorsport thing. We ended up finishing that business in 2012, and then basically I went full time into doing national level motorsport. So I was involved in things like the V8 Ute series, Kumo V8 touring car series, engineered a few different cars in Dunlop series, went up to Sepang in Malaysia and did the 12-hour there. A lot of stuff around various racetracks around Australia, including the ones I mentioned before, but also saloon cars, national level Formula Ford, I'm sure there's a few I'm missing, but basically for that sort of 5-year period, it was pretty much 100% national level motorsport, and then sort of just got sicker of going away every weekend. Like in 2016, I was away 30 weekends of the year, and just sort of got sick of living everyone else's dream and decided to, stay home a bit more, and then again evolve back into a workshop. So I've then set up this place, and sort of never looked back really.
So you mentioned there your first car you built was like a Mazda RX-4. How many cars have, I guess, you owned over your period? Most guys like myself and people who are real car enthusiasts that work on cars themselves have got a pretty long history of many, many vehicles. So how many cars have you owned, I guess, and how many do you still own now? Do you know? Or is the list too long?
Over time, obviously when I first started in rotaries, there was some in the newspaper every weekend for a couple $100. So if you got the room, you used to buy pretty much everyone I saw. So at one point had 50, 60 cars, scaled it back down to probably about 15 at the moment, but mainly tried to keep the RXs. That's sort of my main interest is Mazda rotaries. Got, 4 RX4s at the moment, 3 RX3s, RX2, a few bits and pieces. Then I also like, Datsuns and Corollas, a lot of small car stuff. Obviously very interested in the Fast 4s sort of brigade back in 90s when I was growing up, in early 2000s, so firmly settled in those sort of cars. But even from my RX4, then I've had FJ20 Stanzas. I still have a Datsun Ute with a rotary in it. Got this Corolla behind us that's got a rotary in it. Got RX3 sedan circuit car, improved production car, which I last raced in 2010. Come second in the nationals in that. So just mainly old school rotaries, but daily drives an XR6 Turbo Falcon. I've had a few of those over the years. But pretty much anything rotary is where my main passion is, but I'm fairly open to most performance sort of stuff. Like I could, easily drive a R32 GDR or a VL Turbo, Datsun 1600 with a FJ or a SR. They're definitely something I would still consider buying. Also sort of thinking about getting more into the twin turbo V8 sort of market. Obviously, once you get in a fair bit of drag racing, you realise that the engine is just a tool to make power, and there's obviously different ways to do that. But with the twin turbo V8, power's a little bit easier to make, and there's a little bit more of abundance of it. So it comes back to that track tuning and data and power management, that sort of thing. Whereas racing like rotaries or 4 cylinders, you're always sort of chasing the power. Whereas that twin turbo V8, you sort of always, power managing it, which is just, obviously that goes through data and Motec setup and ECU setup, so I really enjoy that side of things. So that's why I'm probably maybe looking to get into that. And also obviously technology. I definitely wouldn't see myself rolling with a Carby 355, getting into anything like that, although I still tune a fair few of them, but it's not my personal passion, I suppose.
Don't like front flappers?
They're okay.
253. So you said you own 15 Mazda RXs at the moment still?
Yeah, roughly, yeah. Yep.
So that must be worth at least, on current rate, that like about $2 million worth of cars.
Yeah, so it's obviously not thinking about it at the time, but over time that's sort of how it's evolved. So, but it wasn't my original intention.
No, well, I mean, you look back probably 5 years ago, and that's under $100,000 worth of cars, and now it might be joking saying $2 million, but you finish all those cars to a decent standard, and it's probably not even a joke at the moment. We're seeing cars in Facebook groups like Oz Rotary and things like that constantly, day in, day out, where high quality cars are being sold or advertised. I don't know what they're selling for, but they're being advertised for 100k plus. So, if they're selling for anywhere in the vicinity of that, you got 15 of those, you finish that, it's $1.5+ million in just 15 cars. Amazing some of the money that these cars are going for now.
Yeah, and saying that, like, a lot of my cars are projects, but I would quite happily buy an RX2, 3, 4 if it's one I wanted for 50, 70, 100 grand, whatever. That's just, if you want one, that's the price you pay, and I don't think the value's going to go down, so you can't really lose.
Yeah, so twin turbo V8 is something you said you definitely consider. Are you one of those type of people that thinks that a V8 can't have a place in a RX Mazda? Would you do that to like an RX4 coupe?
I probably would.
You're a piece of shit. Get the fuck out. Trade it to the cause.
I would.
Yeah, I would too. I don't. Who gives a shit? There's people out there just blindly like, has to be a rotary, RX Mazda has to be a rotary, but no, who cares?
No, like, yeah, I get it, but no matter which, like any of, say, the RX4s I've got, not one of them is pristine original condition. They've had 30 years of backyard modifications, or, you know, this has happened, or this bit of wiring's been cut, or the floor's been cut, or they've for some reason deleted the indicators or deleted the B-pillar vents, or just, you know, people do little customizable things, but essentially they're changing the original car. So if I went out and spent 40 grand on an original RX4, and there's a couple for sale sort of around that price at the moment, if I went out and bought one of those cars, I would not then cut it up, put a V8 in it. But say, like, I've got an RX4 that's had no floor in it for 10 years, I wouldn't, you know, putting a V8 into that is just, the car's already been cut up, you know what I mean? Like, but it's the same argument you always have, no matter what car you're building. Like the Corolla behind us, it's at some point it's had engine mounts put in, it's had a tunnel put in it, someone's cut a tooling into the back of it. It's no longer an original car, so you go, oh, don't cut up an original car, blah, 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 but it's not original and it hasn't been original for 20 years. Probably this one's not so far gone that you can't return it back to 100% original, but on the same token, I don't enjoy driving around an original car. Like, I wouldn't go and buy an RX4 coupe with a twin Dizzy auto and drive it around every Sunday and go, this is great. I would literally rather shit in my hand and clap.
In terms of passion, you see a lot of cars are in your circuit and street cars and drag cars. What's, I guess, your number one passion in terms of a car that you would build yourself, like with a rotary? Like, you've had, obviously, got an IP spec car and you've got a street car and that, but you're building this obviously mainly for drag racing and that. Is that where, if you were to build a car like a dream car or whatever, would it be more a drag car or a pro touring sort of car with that sort of an eye to drag racing? Is drag racing more of your passion than circuit racing in terms of building your own cars?
So originally, you know, in the early 2000s, I was more into drag racing and then sort of got dragged down the circuit path. It's still by choice, but for me, my main passion is drag racing. So I'll travel every year, go to Jamboree, go to Sydney Jamboree, Queensland Jamboree, go to America once every couple of years, see Pan Am Nationals or Inputs vs Domestics. Or, like, my passion is definitely drag racing. I sort of got dragged down the circuit path. It had some good opportunities, did some good stuff there, but when I sit back and think about what I really want to do, 100% drag racing or that drag street crossover. Like, I like things like Drag Week, Drag Challenge, that sort of thing. I love to sort of get a rotary happening there. That's all time and money, and may have and may not. I like the engineering side of circuit, driver training, chassis setup, obviously engine setup. You know, there's many more facets. Drag racing is more a horsepower game. Still important chassis setup. Definitely two different kettles of fish, but me personally, I'm more drag and street. So my ideal car would be, say, an RX4 coupe, 275 radial car, 20B auto, that sort of thing. I would definitely consider buying a pro car, but it's like, again, it's a time and money thing. And same, if I was going to go twin turbo V8, I'd go, you know, buy a 3/4 chassis Nova out of the States, or, you know, something like that. But yeah, wouldn't mind running a 13B pro car. I have like a 289 car at the moment. You know, that's been like a long project. We built it 10 years ago, raced it for a little bit. You know, other stuff got in the way, busy away racing. Tim, who drives it, went away up north, worked away up north for 5 or 6 years, and now we sort of got back into it this season, scrapped a fair bit and got some pretty good results. So now I'm sort of pretty pumped to go back down that path, and I wish I'd done it, you know, 10, 15 years ago. Different opportunities arise and you can't do everything. Yeah.
So with that car you're talking about there, the Datsun Ute, do you want to tell us a bit about the setup in that thing? So recently it ran 830s and PB to 165 mile an hour as well. Tell us a bit about the setup, like engine, gearbox, rear ends, data stuff, you know, what EFI management, all that kind of stuff, turbo sizes. What's the setup on that thing?
Yeah, so it's like a car we built in about 2008. Originally, back then, you know, 289 class was pretty hot. Still sticking with the original rules where have to keep the original chassis rails, that sort of thing. So it is a sort of little bit of an old school car. There's a lot of cars that are now a tub, sit a lot lower. You know, rules are fairly different. So it's sort of, the car fits the original 289 rules from back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. So basically, that's a 1200 Ute, ladder bar car, all original chassis rails, just a 12A bridge port. We originally ran a 12A peripheral port, but yeah, sort of didn't get on top of that too quickly, and that's when sort of lost interest and went on to other things. But yeah, so now we've basically just got a basic 12A Bridgeport setup, still original 12A plates, 12A housings. I made a custom-made intake manifold with an E&J 4-barrel. We got a 76mm GDX 42 turbo, single 44mm wastegate, 8 Siemens Decker injectors. So, your typical rotary setup, fairly basic. Still can go semi-roof report, obviously go bigger turbo, that sort of thing. But, we're sort of stuck where we originally built the car. I'm going to try and get as much out of a 76mm turbo as we can, and then probably move on to bigger stuff later on. Yeah, just try and get the most of it. So running GF5R, clutchless G-force, twin plate, direct clutch, 9-inch diff. So basically started with the competition engineering housing, then braced it ourselves, did all the ladder bars ourselves, welded up the diff. Like everything's basically done in-house. Only thing between me and the other guy Tim, who we both own shares in the car, pretty much the only thing we didn't do ourselves was lay the coat of paint. So we did everything from panel work, obviously all the fabrication, engine building, wiring, tuning, basically everything. As far as electronics go, we're running Motec PDM to run all your sort of power functions to the car, so to supply power to the whole car. We also run Motec Dash, C187 Dash, and we use that for data logging, all the sensors in the car, and we have an E888 box for EGTs, LTC, NTK for Lambda. We run boost control runs off the dash, so I've got my own customised table set up, so we can run boost off different gears, different RPM, different wheel speeds, calculate tyre slip and adjust boost off that. Also can do it from ride height if the car's wheeling and stuff. So it comes into all that sort of power management stuff. And with the Motec Dash, the sky's the limit. As much as you can think you want to do, you can do with the Motec Dash. There's pretty much no limiting factor. And that comes from the circuit stuff. Like a dash is really critical, national level motorsport car. So I take everything I've learnt there and I try and apply it to everything I do motorsport wise, and just try to get, I suppose, the edge over everyone else. Car runs Microtech LT16C ECU, tried and tested Microtech. Been using them for 15 years, always had sort of good success with them. A lot of people ask why don't we run a Motec ECU as well, and it's probably something we won't rule out, but definitely a lot more comfortable, and we know we can forget about that part of the car. We know it's going to work, we know it's going to do its job, and we can concentrate on setting up the chassis or making sure the engine's right, and doing data, doing boost control, that sort of thing. We also run 2 MSD disc 4 boxes for ignition, 4 MSD coils.
It runs on methanol fuel?
Yep, so it runs on methanol, so we've just got aeromotive mechanical pump, 8 Siemens Decker injectors. We're getting reasonably close to running out with those. So.
Yep. You mentioned that car doesn't have a Motec ECU, but it's got Motec everything else in the car. There's not many, or I only know really of one sort of car. We saw Jamboree last year that's got the latest generation M1 series Motec ECUs, but I've heard and seen that this Corolla behind us, that's a naturally aspirated thing, and you've got in the works here, you're working on a package there for rotaries for with the M1 series ECU, is that right? Yep,
that's right. I don't know if anyone's heard of the 4-rotor carbon time attack car. I've actually done the whole Motec package on that car, so that runs an M150 ECU, C1812 dash, PDM 32, mil-spec wiring harness, all done by myself for Motor Elite. For that, I wrote my own firmware. So basically bought like a development M150 ECU. Then with the development package with Motec, you can basically write your own firmware, so you can write your own front-end programming to run whatever engine configuration you want with basically any parameter that you basically can think of. So over the a couple of years, wrote my own firmware for that car and got that car to the point where it's it's done laps around the racetrack. It's successfully been on the dyno. It's made good power. Where it excels, it runs things like drive-by-wire throttle, so we can run torque management. We can run a lot of traction control setup, and just make it, because that's basically a primary time attack circuit car. Just use all those little aids to basically generate a faster car.
So speaking of personal interests away from racing, that room up the top of the workshop here, where most mechanical workshops would probably have lots of leftover parts and junk and things like that, that room's full of some pretty serious audio gear. You want to talk a bit about that and what your hobbies are and outside of racing?
Yeah, music is definitely a passion. Loves going to sing live music. I played instruments myself since I started high school, so bass, drums, a little bit of guitar. So try and practice for an hour a day. So I usually finish here at the workshop, later into the night, then go, smash out the drums for an hour, or relieve some stress, that sort of thing. Like, love just jamming with different people and playing a bit of music's definitely my probably second biggest biggest hobby.
Yeah.
So,
What are your favourite bands?
pretty much anything, like definitely stuck in that 90s sort of era when you grow up. So, anything from, Pearl Jam to Nirvana, that sort of 90s grunge stuff. Definitely a lot of metal. So, anything like Metallica, Slipknot, Machine Head, any that sort of genre of music, and then all the way to, a lot of funk stuff and funk metal stuff like Faith No More or Primus. And then even down to, I played in a few jazz bands when I was at school, so like a bit of ska, like Real Big Fish or Straight Like Manifesto, or a lot of sort of pretty broad sort of range of music, but mainly sort of 90s punk, metal, rock, that sort of thing. Occasionally Britney Spears.
Yeah.
Only when you play it.
Yeah, that's my favourite. All right, so we're going to finish off now with some really quick, fast answer questions. I'm going to ask you a question and just whatever first thing comes into your mind, just answer that. So let's see. So favourite car?
Donuts.
This isn't going to plan already. Okay, start again, take two. Favourite car?
Mazda RX-4 Coupe.
That would have been the second part of the question. So coupes or sedans? Obviously coupes. Slicks or radials?
Slicks.
Yeah, right. It's like the new clique, the new in-crowd.
Yeah.
They're only, like, all the cool people run radials or something. And, like, if you run slicks, you're like some old school loser or something. So.
I'm not averse to radials, but
No.
they're definitely a little bit hard to get down the track when you're running a car that's on a knife edge, like rotary.
Yep.
It's just an added...
I was going to say, it's just an added thing to stuff you around when you've got a power curve, like power banner that big, like a two-stroke dirt bike.
Yep.
This shouldn't be a hard one. EFI or Carby?
That's it, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm not even going to bother asking that. So, your favourite...
I really do like those carbies, those EFI carbies they look like a carby, but they're EFI.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
That's the worst of both worlds. It doesn't do either job good. Favourite tool in this entire workshop? So I assume it's probably the one sitting in the room behind us.
The most expensive one is the
Generally, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely mainline Pro Hub. I really wonder how I tuned cars before I had that. Just can't explain it to you. Like
And especially that big horsepower like stuff. You've got a GTR on there at the moment, or cars like those really peaky power bands like the rotaries with big horsepower. Like we've even had just when we had Project Redline on the dyno, and that doesn't make massive amounts of power, but it was just an annoyance, just constantly getting out and tightening up straps and getting fat bastards to sit in the back of the thing to put load on the roller just to try and get the power to out through the roller and that. Whereas these things, it's people always think, oh, the hub dyno, it's so much more of a hassle having to unbolt the wheels and bolt it to the hub and that, but the amount of time that you save from actually doing a pull that means something versus the rollers of just spinning the tyre, or one time it's loading up properly, next time it's not, and getting out and strapping and all this kind of stuff.
You should be a salesman for mainline.
Contact me for all mainline dyno inquiries. Dyno Dynamics makes Hub Dyno too now, but
Yeah, I don't want to hear about it.
okay, I'll just move right on. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Jesus, all right. Okay, now
Don't get me started.
all right, I won't then. On Apple or Android, how many screens have you gone through in the last 12 months on that iPhone?
0. I've not broken a screen on that
Really?
phone in 2 years.
You know you're going to break a screen tomorrow now after talking about this.
I've got the biggest, baddest phone cover you can.
It's good, you're doing well then. My one's...
Post that, the phone before was definitely once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, my one's faring all right. I think it's just 2 years old and it's pretty good.
No,
Favourite band?
Just one?
Yeah.
At this
just
point
one.
in time?
Yeah, right now.
Or does it have to be more?
No, right now. I'm asking you right now.
Tool.
So, right-
Definitely listen to a lot of Tool.
Okay. Is that because you are a tool?
Yes.
Okay.
Goes hand in hand.
Drag racing or circuit?
I definitely like both, but definitely if I had to choose drag racing,
Yeah, drag racing. Favourite food?
pizza.
Specifically?
Nando's.
Nando's pizza. I've known that one before. Maybe Nando should venture out into Nando's pizza. Pepperoni pizza?
Pepperoni pizza.
Yes, okay.
Definitely had it from many corners of the world.
Yeah. Rotary or piston?
V8 in a rotary. No, rotary.
Street car or race car?
Race car. Street car days are numbered.
Pepsi or Coke?
Raspberry Coke.
Raspberry Coke. I feel like a traitor because normally all I drink is Pepsi Max. but this is very good.
So yeah, running Kumo V8 Touring Car Series at Gary Hills. It's a 5-round series, mainly East Coast, finishing up at Tailem Bend, so it'd be good to get to that track. That track, one of the, basically the only track in Australia I haven't been to, at least 100 times. So race wars are coming up at the end of this month, so probably tune a good 30 or 40 cars that are racing in that. We've got a few pretty serious cars that are going to try and run over 300 k's an hour, so we'll see if that happens. Easier said than done. Involved pretty heavily with just like the state level circuit racing, so probably tune 50% of the saloon cars that race up at Barbagallo, and again probably a third of the improved production class, a third of the sports sedan class, so fairly heavily involved up there. Do a lot of chassis setup for a few guys, scale cars, wheel alignments, that sort of thing. We've got a couple of VLs that have both previously run 9s, they're looking to push into the 8s this season, so they'll be out in the next couple of months.
Hurry up, Dave. No excuses. Race your car now.
How about you race your car?
Project Redliner's on hiatus at the moment. This isn't about me, remember? It's about We are looking to get Project Redline out very shortly, so hopefully by the time this airs, we will have raced it. Maybe I just won't edit this until like the second half of the year now to make sure it does. But how do people get in contact with you? How do people find you? Do you have Facebook page, email? Don't answer your phone ever, so I won't be giving your phone number around. So how do you, like, electronically, how do people get in touch with you, I guess?
Yeah, definitely Facebook's the easiest way. Just send a message to the business page or me personally. So yeah, just WA Racing Developments on Facebook, or just send me a personal message on Facebook. My name's Mike Dyno. Feel free to add me as a friend. I'm definitely looking to hit the 9,000 friends mark this week.
I don't think you can have 9,000 friends.
You can try ringing me, but I usually don't answer because I'm usually on a dyno or at a racetrack or playing drums. What?
Maxwell Smart Tracks coming out. Must be that later now. Alright, cool, no worries. Well, thanks for your time. A really, really great facility you got here now. I mean, I've seen from factory RE to pro race to this place now. So yeah, it's just evolution of the workshops over the years, isn't it? So really looking forward to seeing what comes about from this year, and hoping to see Tim's car go and your car go even faster this year. So thanks for your time. I can see what you're doing there, you arsehole. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for watching. Might have been painful, but we got there in the end. That's it for tonight's episode. So if you want us to tour someone else's workshop, or you've got a workshop you want us to come out and have a look at, contact us, leave something in the comments below, email us to sales@mrparts.com.au, and we'll see what we can sort out. Till then, catch you next time.